The news never stops in the WNBA. What are the Los Angeles Sparks thinking? We will talk about some things they might be thinking, some things they should be thinking. Plus, Sabrina the superstar, Sabrina Ionescu, a remarkable night to help the Liberty advance. I was there. Let me tell you all about it. We'll hear from Sabrina too, but Atlanta's future bright as well. Locked On Women's Basketball starts now.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And a very happy Wednesday to you, and welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm your host, Howard Megdal. I want to thank you for making us your first listen every day. Over 200,000 of you showed up in August alone. The way we show up for you 6 days a week. Make sure you're subscribing on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, it is not just me, it is the incredible team over at the Next, at thenexthoops.com, where we have over 100 reported pieces every single month. Atlanta played New York last night. We got Wilton Jackson coming out of Atlanta, the great Jackie Powell coming out of New York. We'll tell you everything you need to know out of those games. Ditto out of Las Vegas and Seattle. Make sure you subscribe, support the work. $9 a month, $72 a year, over 100 reported pieces coming right to your inbox. One kind of crazy deal. Subscribe to thenexthoops.com. Speaking of crazy deals, crazy deal came out of Los Angeles last night, a few minutes before tip-off in New York at Barclays Center, and a collective shock went through the media workroom as it was announced that Curt Miller, after 2 years in Los Angeles, they called it mutual parting, but the Next is confirmed. And I have a story up there with Cameron Ruby. There's a firing. This was the decision made by the Los Angeles Sparks to move on from Curt Miller. And some context is necessary here. We'll talk all about the decision in segment one. I spent a lot of time reporting during the game last night about who might be interested, who might not be interested, and why that is. I think it's important to know those things for the context as well. Segment two, we're going to talk all about the New York Liberty, who have advanced and will play on Sunday, the team that knocked them out of the WNBA Finals last year, the Las Vegas Aces. Going to be crazy at Barclays Center. Get your tickets if you haven't gotten them yet. Segment three, I want to talk a little bit about the Atlanta Dream, because there's a lot of reason for joy out of that team. I know their season ended last night, but that's a team that's doing it the right way. And we'll talk about how and why we know that to be true. As opposed to, all right, we're going to get into it. So just some context here, shall we? There's a lot that's going right for LA. All right. Raiden Peebley knows the game really well. General manager. It makes sense that she's in that position. Really excited to see what she's building. She's got Eli Horowitz in her front office. He's been on the show, as is Raiden, of course. One of the great young minds in this game as well. Somebody who, if these expansion teams aren't calling him, putting him on the list to have a conversation about their GM spots, they are not doing their due diligence. Okay, just period, end of story. So the future is bright there. There's an expanded analytics team that has helped them make some really good decisions. I just don't know how you don't look at this draft and you say, all right, Cameron Brink at 2 really looked amazing in her 15 games before she got hurt. Rickea Jackson was the second best rookie in this year's class. I understand she had the second most attention, but if you look at her offensive efficiency, the things she was able to do right away, a rookie's first season is essentially that player's floor. The future is crazy bright. And I will just say, just sort of point this out, essentially Seattle sent that pick to LA to open up cap space to create a team that lost in the first round. And I understand why they did it. To Lisa Ray, like, it makes sense that they went after trying to win now. But all right, so the win now part's over. We'll see whether that team stays together headed into a bunch of free agency. Neckard Wumake among them. Well, LA's got Rakia Jackson for a while. So jury's still out on that one, but man, sure looks like the Sparks have done really well there. And again, Brink did well right away. Jackson developed right away. Dearica Hamby turned into an all WNBA level performer under the coaching of Curt Miller and his staff. So what are we doing here, Los Angeles? I heard Magic Johnson, who last I heard was an NBA player, NBA executive at times, not necessarily, listen, great player, one of the greatest players I've ever seen, not necessarily distinguishing himself as a WNBA executive. Oh, he wants to get more involved. That's great. We love that, right? When NBA figures think they can just come in and do the WNBA work, like it's not a whole separate league with a whole separate set of ideas and strengths. 2005 called, they want their strategy back, right? So, okay, that's a thing. Who you're going to bring in as head coach? There are some really talented people who have to get a call, and I started running those down with you last night over at the Next. You're not doing your due diligence if you're not calling Katie Smith, who has one head coaching job, and it was New York when Jim Dolan left the Liberty by the side of the road, and has been learning under Cheryl Reeve, who knows a thing or two about being a head coach, right? You got Brandy Poole down in Dallas, who should be on everyone's list every time. Poti Chapman, her Storm season just ended as an assistant. Poti's a winner. Karima Christmas Kelly and what she's done with the Fever, helping them develop, she's got to be a phone call you got to make. And I mentioned this sort of in passing in the story. Maybe call Latricia Trammell, call the Wings, see where they are with Latricia Trammell, somebody who's previously been in LA, somebody who knows how to coach defense. Be interested to see how that conversation went. So we'll see. Reagan Peebly knows what she's doing. Will she be empowered? Will she and Eli have the opportunity to build? Are they going to have their WNBA staff do it? Or is Magic Johnson going to come in and somebody said to me as a joke, oh, Michael Cooper's available. Curt Miller is a winner everywhere he's gone. He was 25 and 55 over these past 2 years, which matters if you are just looking at record at top line. I talk about this all the time with women's sports writ large. Like, if you're looking at outcomes and you're not looking at inputs, you're not paying attention. How is the culture? Well, LA had a bunch of people sign extensions. People aren't looking to leave en masse. We saw a Natasha Howard type announcement. Dearica Hamby took to Twitter last night. She was upset about it. Azrae Stevens extended, right? Lexi Brown extended. People wanted to stick around and play in LA with and for Curt Miller. So somebody asked me from another front office, well, would I have done this? And the point I say is the circumstances under which you move on from Curt Miller is where you have a clear upgrade and a culture problem in your locker room. And the people I mentioned are really talented, but I think they're going to all struggle to bring in free agent talent unless and until LA invests in their own practice facility and the other ways that they need to feel major league, because a lot of teams are doing it the right way. And I'm not sure they are. So LA Sparks ownership, whether it's Eric Holloman or Magic Johnson or whoever else, need to get out of the hot dog suit, to use the popular meme, and figure out what the problems were, what the problems weren't. But I'll tell you this, Golden State, Portland, Toronto, they just had a very strong addition to their list as they're figuring out how to fill out their front offices and head coaching spots. And that is Curt Miller. We didn't even talk about the injuries. They had, Lucas Seehofer had this stat for us at the Nets, and it blows my mind. 20.9% of all injuries over the past 2 years happened to the Los Angeles Sparks. And again, you connect the dots. You go back to training facility. Did it happen to the Los Angeles Sparks, or is it what the Sparks are doing? Anyway, seems crazy to me. The whole thing seems crazy to me. We'll see what happens next. All right, back talking Liberty and Dream right after this. I'm Howard Megdal, and you're listening to Locked On Women's Basketball. Locked On Women's Basketball is brought to you by Miracle Made Sheets. And look, you get back home late. I'm just hypothetical. From, let's say, like a Liberty Dream game. It's after 1 a.m. It's cold in that house. You just want to get comfortable, get in your sheets, and get to sleep because you got a busy day covering the league coming up. I don't know what I'm talking about in particular. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's my Miracle Made Sheets that never sleep too hot, never sleep too cold. It has a huge impact on your sleep, and it keeps you rested and keeps you comfortable in style. These are self-cleaning sheets infused with silver that prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth. They're comfortable. They look great. Not that I saw them last night. I'm just full disclosure. I just collapsed into those sheets because it was dark and it was after 1 o'clock in the morning. It was okay. I knew I was in good shape because I had Miracle Made Sheets waiting for me. You can too. Go to trymiracle.com/locked on to try Miracle Made Sheets today. And they have this great deal, right? You can already save over 40%. But if you use our promo code locked on at checkout, you get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Again, go to trymiracle.com/locked on and use the code LOCKEDON to claim your 3-piece towel set and save over 40%. Trymiracle.com/locked on. Treat yourself. Thank you to Miracle Made for sponsoring this episode. Locked On Women's Basketball is also brought to you by FanDuel. And NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports. But NFL is, by the way, they play, I'm sorry, I have it in my notes. They play football, and you can watch those games. I'll record them, and I'll watch them on a Sunday after all the WNBA games are over. The National Football League. Yeah, look into it. It's something that gets you from one place to the next. Like if you're a Liberty fan, you don't have any basketball games come until Sunday. So, yeah, the NFL, the Giants actually, they won a game. Not fake news. Giants won a game. And so FanDuel, you can follow all of that action, right? Check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, so much more. Same place where you place your bets. And why would you place your bets? Well, I'll tell you. If you place a $5 bet at FanDuel, you get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. $5 in, $200 in bonus bets out. That is FanDuel.com. Pretty good deal. Howard Megdal here for Locked On Women's Basketball, and we're back with segment 2. So I want to talk about what I heard from Sabrina last night. And the great Jackie Powell's going to have a story for you over at the Next later today. But just to kind of take you through it, because to me it was a remarkable thing. Sabrina scored 36 points last night. She did it on 23 shots, 9 assists, 3 steals as well. The evolution of Sabrina Ionescu from elite player, but complimentary in a lot of ways to just legit superstar every bit as much as Breanna Stewart and Jonquel Jones on this team was there last night. Sabrina was the unstoppable one. Atlanta had a game plan to try and slow her down, and they were just not able to do so. And that's no reflection on Tanisha Wright. That's no reflection on the players who play for this dream team. This is just as simple as this is a player who, when she wants to score, when she wants to find her teammates, when she wants to take over the game, she does so. So I want you to listen to what she has to say, and then we're going to be back. I'm Howard Megdal, and you're listening to Locked On Women's Basketball.
Congrats, you guys. Sabrina, for you, that third quarter, it seemed like, was the point at which you were able to kind of take control of the game. And you've always talked about it in terms of taking what the defense gives you, but how did you assert yourself in that particular moment? And was there something schematically that was done that was giving you more of those opportunities at that point in the game?
My kind of focus was get downhill, get some easy ones. We were getting stops defensively. We were running. End of second quarter, we got a little 3-point happy, and we're shooting some shots that normally go in but weren't. And I think kind of there was a point where we kept getting stops and weren't scoring. We were taking some tough shots, and that was kind of the point where I was like, I got to get into the paint, see if I can draw some fouls, and kind of collapse the defense in order to get us some easier looks. And thankfully, the paint was wide open, and so I was able to just continue to drive, get to the basket, get some easy ones to fall, and kind of be able to see us get the lead. And I think that took a little bit of pressure off our back as well.
And then JJ, just for you, when she gets downhill like that, you're already one of the elite rebounders in the league. How much easier does that make it when the gravity changes on the floor?
Yeah, I mean, she's drawing a lot of people. She's bringing a lot of attention. So I just get in the rebounding position. If she misses, which happens very rarely, I'm in a position to be able to get it.
So again, you hear it. It's matter of fact. That is the difference between an excellent player and a superstar in this league. There are players who are capable of taking over a game, and there are players who can decide to take over the game. And that may seem like a small thing, but it's not. It's not a small thing. Sabrina imposed her will on the game to bring her team to the next round of the WNBA playoffs. That is the player that Jonathan Kolb drafted first overall in the 2020 draft. That is the player who Sabrina has decided to become. And I very intentionally pointed out, this is somebody capable of getting downhill at will. She was a shooter who had to overcome a vicious ankle injury that cost her all but 3 games of her rookie year and a lot of mobility in her second year. This is somebody who didn't just bring that up to average. She has turned that into a major strength of her game. It is remarkable to me. It is remarkable how much better Sabrina has become as a player since she entered the league. And it's a tribute to her hard work. That is a tribute to somebody who has not settled, who looked in the mirror and said, this is how good I can be. I have had the privilege of covering Sabrina Ionescu since her freshman year of college at Oregon. Went out there and saw her in person and came home with the understanding this is a generational talent. But generational talent will only get you so far unless you put in the work and you decide to get better and better and better. And that's what she's done. So somebody said something, I'll just leave it here before we get into the dream in segment 3. Somebody asked her about being off her game last year against the Aces. And you see she got a little irritated with the question. And that's good. That's what you want from a competitor, right? She was not healthy against the Aces last year. She will be healthy against the Aces this year. I can't wait to see what that means. No easy task, as we saw from the way the Aces smothered the Storm last night. It isn't about easy. It's about, well, now we get to see Sabrina at full strength even better going up against them. That's what you want in the WNBA playoffs. Best versus best. Oh, it's going to be fun on Sunday. Oh, can't wait. I can't believe I got to wait till Sunday for that. All right. Back in segment 3, we're going to talk little Atlanta Dream before we fly. I'm Howard Megdal. You are listening to Locked On Women's Basketball. More after this. But first, better get on that Game Time app and get yourself those tickets for Barclays on Sunday. Woo! That's going to be a good one. Game Time has this all-in pricing. So they'll be higher than you're used to paying. That's the price you pay for the league taking off like this. But Game Time helps make it easier to do it. Game Time's got these special last-minute deals. Just keep refreshing the app. That's what you do. You make sure. Game Time's got a special discount for you guys, our listeners. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. They've got this 360-degree view I've told you about. Wherever you're sitting, you can see what you're looking at. All right, I'm sitting here. What does the basket look like? How am I going to get a closer look on that battle between Jonquel Jones and A'ja Wilson? Oh, excited just thinking about it. How will I get a closer look at the Timeless Torches, America's Treasure? How will I get a closer look at Ellie the Elephant? Game Time helps you do it. So download the app, use our code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase today. What time is it? Oh, I'm not sure Sunday, but for now and always, it is game time. Back here in segment 3, and the way I want to talk to you about this is very simple. The Atlanta Dream, their season finished. There was no recrimination or anger or disappointment. Hearing from Tanisha Wright, who I've had the privilege of covering since she was a player, it was obvious on the coaching track. I always learn when I hear from Tanisha Wright. And Tanisha Wright approaches this task with seriousness, with humility. She talked about the end of her 3rd season, getting better at the craft. And she continues to. I mean, the adjustments we saw her make between game 1 and game 2 were a great example of that, in my view. The Atlanta Dream played about as well as you could ask them to play. The Liberty have more talent, top to bottom. The Dream are still developing that roster. Dan Padover is doing an excellent job. And they are built around a partnership between Alicia Gray and Ryan Howard, other players as well. Obviously, Tina Charles, who is so happy in that role. I can't wait to see what Tina continues to do. But there was just this moment, and they were in that post game, Alicia Gray and Ryan Howard smiling at each other and just talking about how much fun they were having. Once Jordan Canada got out there to be able to distribute the ball and a true point guard, I mean, this is not the 8th best team in the league. This is a team with the 8th best record because of injuries. If they played a full season altogether, you go by net rating, they were a top 4, top 5 team. What would they have done in a Vegas-Seattle series? I don't know. We'll never know, at least not until next year, assuming better health for them. But to hear Alicia and Ryan talk about their unrivaled invitations, they both talked at some level like it was almost like a level of surprise to be recognized as like 2 of the 30 best players by their peers. Well, they are. Anybody who thinks Atlanta doesn't have a superstar, they have 2. And you saw it with the way Gray came out last night and tried to take over that game by herself, scored 14 points in the first quarter. This is a team that's not that far away. And, Tanisha, to her credit, was not ready to talk about, all right, what is the gap between here and getting to true championship contention? I have some ideas, I think some additional shooting off the bench. I think a versatile big is going to be critical to be able to pair with Naz Hillman in that rotation. I think it's worth rethinking whether you can better use Haley Jones as, let's say, more of a Benajelani Hamilton type of role in Atlanta and get a legitimate second point guard to pair with Jordan, Canada. There's some ways to do it. They've got a front office and figure it out. Dan Padover, as smart as they come. Tanisha Wright knows this league extremely well. But the Atlanta Dream are on their way. I've covered a lot of losing locker rooms and a lot of teams at the end of their season. You even heard some of them last night where not everyone's on the same page. They're on the same page. Culture is being built. And I know that's a buzzword used a lot of times, but it's not a buzzword here. So the proof is in the pudding. Really interested to see what happens next for Atlanta. All right, we'll be back with you tomorrow. We'll be talking about some Mystics. Mike Tebow giving an end-of-year interview. Seattle Storm doing their exit interviews today as well. So we have a lot to come and a lot of live looks at everything that's going on. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you're getting all of our reporting all over the WNBA playoffs, because our folks at thenetstoops.com and Locked On Women's Basketball, we are everywhere. So until then, I am Howard Megdal, wishing all of you a wonderful Wednesday.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.